Good afternoon, everyone. We are All49ers, and this is Roundtable. I'm Grant Cohn. Beneath me is Jack Hammer. To the right of him is Jose Sanchez, and above him is Ben Meyerson. Nick Newman will be joining us momentarily, theoretically. I don't know. We'll see about Nick. Until then, we got 6 topics, about 55 minutes. Let's get right into it. First topic. Since Fred Warner's in the news and everyone's giving him props, is he better than prime Patrick Willis? I think that's an interesting question. Jack, why don't you lead us off on this one?
Sure. I don't think he's quite there yet, but he's definitely approaching that. I'd say they're probably at this point in their careers probably pretty close to one another. I'm not ready to anoint him as better than Willis yet. Willis was pretty darn good for a long period of time. He was with the 49ers on some really bad teams. Like I said, I think he's getting there. I just don't think he's quite there yet going into year number 4.
Yeah, I'm right there, Jack. I think he's like just a level off of Patrick Willis, at least if you look at it from like an accolade standpoint, because the moment this guy stepped into the league, he was already all-pro caliber, and that's kind of insane to see nowadays, to see a rookie get already that type of stature. But I think when it's all said and done, I think we are going to say Fred Warner is a better player than Patrick Willis for sure, because right now he has a younger standpoint in terms of Patrick Willis. Technically, I say technically after 8 seasons, because his 8th season he only played 6 games. He technically only got 7 to 8 seasons in. You figure Fred Warner is going to get more than that, because I kind of felt like Patrick Willis was a little bit of an outlier, like, whoa, so abruptly retiring like that, and then you can even throw in Luke Kuechly like that. But I feel like the reason why you're gonna say Fred Warner is a better linebacker is because passing now is such more big of an emphasis as it was when Willis first started in his first half of the year, or even just his whole career, to be honest. It's much more emphasized, so Warner's going to be much more plastered, much more known, much more of an impact player in that sense. Both their leadership skills, you could probably say they're both the same. They both equate to each other. But I think the tip of scale here is in terms of playoff appearances. The 49ers are more poised to be in playoff scenarios with Fred Warner and Kyle Shanahan, the way the 49ers have built up, than Patrick Willis was. And obviously, they didn't get there until 2011. So he has more moments to shine like that, and just to really become like really more known as a 49ers great linebacker, maybe even just a greater linebacker in general.
Yeah, I got to agree with everyone else for the most part. I think you guys are right that, I don't think Fred Warner is better than Patrick Willis right now, but I certainly think over his career, by the end of his career, we'll consider Fred Warner the better linebacker than Patrick Willis. And I think the thing that's going to set him apart is I think he's going to win a lot with the 49ers, and he's going to do a lot of impressive things in the playoffs for not just the next few years, but many years to come. So I think ultimately that will set them apart by the end of Fred Warner's career.
It's a fascinating question. I think it's Patrick Willis. I think Patrick Willis is the best linebacker I've ever seen. And I think people are kind of underrating him. Well, I don't know, but like, he played alongside Bowman. People remember Bowman. And maybe Willis's best years were before the Harbaugh years, back when the team wasn't that good. Not his fault. I think, look who we have. Oh, he's getting ready. I'm going to give him a second. He's ready. What's up?
What's going on?
I'm answering. We're talking about whether Patrick Willis is better than Fred Warner. It's my turn. You'll go up next.
Absolutely.
I'm saying Patrick Willis. And to me, Patrick Willis is the best linebacker I've ever seen. Now, there is one thing that Fred Warner is better at than Willis, and that's coverage. Like, Willis was good in coverage. Warner's amazing. And I remember Willis could cover most guys, but he struggled against Jimmy Graham in the playoffs when they faced. That was a tough matchup. I think Fred Warner now would do better in that matchup. Just more fluid, bigger, taller. But in terms of sideline to sideline speed, Willis. In terms of getting in the backfield, Willis. I mean, he had a year in 2009 when he had 13 tackles for loss. Warner has 15 in his career. Willis also had a year in 2010 where he had 6 sacks. I mean, he had 16 forced fumbles for his career. Warner has 5. So I feel like if you talk about linebackers as like a 5-tool player, sideline to sideline speed, downhill ferocity, coverage, blitzing, and turnover forcing, I'd give Willis 2 and 4 of the 5. But maybe Fred Warner can keep improving and get there. He's the Willie Mays of linebackers. That's the way I look at Patrick Willis.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
No,
Nick, you're up.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that you said, Grant. You're a tough one to follow up. But the way that I see it when talking about Fred Warner and Patrick Willis is Patrick Willis you have an argument like from 2000 onward. Patrick Willis is on the 49ers Mount Rushmore from 2000 onward. Like he is established. He had a short career, but his short career was playing at a high level each and every season. Not to say that Fred Warner has not been playing at a high level throughout the 3 years of his young career. The potential is definitely there for him to surpass Willis, especially if he has a longer career because, Willis decided to retire early. But if Warner keeps stacking up all those individual accomplishments and the team has more success than Willis's team, the possibility, the potential is there for sure.
Human Race Wins says, is Lynch recreating the 2003 Tampa D? Who's Sapp's comp? DeForest Buckner. No, it would be Kinlaw, right? Kinlaw would have to be that guy.
Yeah, it has to be.
So I don't know. I don't know about that. But I guess Derek Brooks would be Bosa. I don't know. What do you think, Jack? Who would be Lynch? Jaquaski Tartt?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, right. Because that's a strong safety. Yeah, that would be there. Yeah. Look at this. I know not prepared for this, but then looking back at it right now, I mean, Patrick Willis had in his first 3 seasons of the league, 174, 141, 152 tackles. Those numbers are outrageous when you compare those to Warner.
Anyone. People forget Willis because when he played those first 3 years, the team wasn't good. Not his fault. He was great. Swan Song says P. Willie could have played in any era at an all-pro level, whereas Fred Warner is an all-pro only in this era. Maybe. Possibly. That sounds pretty fair. But Fred Warner, I don't want to come on here and undersell Fred Warner. He's great too. I just look at Patrick Willis as the greatest of the greatest. All right. Jack, you got a little bit of feedback, so I'm going to mute you in between your turns. It's not personal. You're doing a great job. I'm not muting you like Tony Reale would. You know what I'm saying? Okay. All right. Let's move on. Is the Fred Warner extension an admission from the 49ers that they messed up with DeForest Buckner? Ben.
Yes, I think it is. To me, I think it's not just it is the Fred Warner extension that defines this definitely, but it's kind of a combination of a ton of things where the 49ers drafted Fred Warner, right? That's the reason you see all the stuff now. And when people bring up the whole DeForest Buckner situation, they always say, oh, this wasn't the regime that drafted him and all this kind of stuff. But I don't understand not trying to pay the best player at their position. I'm just not. I'm not in the business of letting go of the best players at their position potentially. So when the 49ers did make the DeForest Buckner trade, I didn't really understand it at the time. I think they got decent value, but at the same time, if you look at the deal they ended up making with Eric Armstead, it's not vastly different from what DeForest Buckner is making now. And with the reality that the 49ers have Trey Lance as their future quarterback, that would have solved the DeForest Buckner issue, which is really funny now to look back onto. So I think them paying Fred Warner, and we're going to see this over the next few years with the 49ers. Debo is going to be up for a contract. Nick Bosa is going to be up for a contract. I would be willing to bet that this regime is going to pay those players rather than pass on them again, even though I know some people here might have a different opinion on that.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how this was all going to play out with Fred Warner after DeForest Buckner. And like you touched on, Ben, this regime obviously didn't draft Buckner, but he was really the first sample to see how they might handle big contracts in terms of if they're going to pay guys that are top 3 at their position, or if they're just going to try to move on from them and get more value. Garoppolo, he wasn't as established as the other guys. Of course, they made him one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league at the time. But Buckner, he got traded. Then you had George Kittle. They brought him back. So like you talked about, Ben, they are paying their own guys. And it is going to be interesting to see what happens down the road with Debo Samuel when his contract comes up. I think Nick Bosa is a lock for them to bring back. But touching on if this specific deal with Warner has anything to do with how they handle the Buckner situation, I think it might. I don't have a strong stance on it either way, but the possibility is definitely there.
Yeah. I don't know if I would say that this is an admission that they messed up with DeForest Buckner. I mean, they definitely messed up on that whole deal. That's a guy that they could have easily kept if they had just decided to do it. I think what it is the whole deal with Buckner is they don't value the defensive tackle position as strongly as they do other places. So that's why they made the move. They value the linebacker position more. And, Warner has the ability to do multiple things for them, which I think is the difference between those two players. But what's funny about it is we say that as far as, they don't value the defensive tackle, But when you have a conversation with anybody regarding the whether the 49ers should have kept Buckner or Armstead, the argument always becomes, well, Armstead struggles because he doesn't have everybody around him. He wasn't able to play defensive tackle as much because they didn't have the end to let him kick out inside. So they're paying Armstead to be a defensive tackle basically, and that's at the sixth highest rate in the NFL when they could have done it for $2 million more and had an all-pro level player there. It was definitely a mistake on their part, and they could have structured that contract very similarly to what they did with Fred Warner, because he had an extra year left on his contract. It would have been very similar.
Yeah, I like what Jack said. They just don't value the defensive tackle position that highly, and I think that's where that's the one thing I'll ever admit that this whole move was wrong in 49ers is that, okay, you looked at the position, but you didn't look at the player. You didn't look at the leader. You didn't look at the impact that he was making. You didn't look at the healthy seasons versus the guy who you kind of just, took just a little bit levels off of money. Well, Jack said you could just kicked over into $1 million plus more, and you could have still had the same more impactful player, which imagine if he was with the 49ers in 2020, that's probably like an extra win right there for them. But I think they're both still in a way they're exclusive just in terms of, they saw, because if it was an admittance, it'd be almost like maybe I'm seeing it a little more reaching. It's just in a way that they probably would have foresaw Fred Warner was already going to be this type of caliber player, which after 2019 season, when they did trade to Forrest Buckner, Warner looked great in 19, but that was mainly for half or 2/3 of the season, mainly, especially once Quan Alexander went out with that injury, that Warner started to storm onto the scene. So I think in this case, the guy just blossomed into such a phenomenal player that I was like, all right, we need to sign this guy. It's too obvious. He does so much for us. We can blitz him. He can come up for the run. He's a leader and do all this such. And again, the positional value in terms of how they weight their own, their oon value in terms of, we love linebackers. We love the guy who can remove the middle of the field and take a number 3, number 4, whatever, the running back. And it's all gravy from there. So I think you could probably sniff around, maybe see it's like that, but I think they're both exclusive.
I don't think the Niners have admitted that they made a mistake with Buckner. I think they're still clinging to the stance that they made the right call. I think what they believe is that no defensive tackle not named Aaron Donald is worth $20 million a year. I think that's their stance, and they're not going to change. I think maybe they're right about that. I think Buckner's worth it, but maybe they're right. What they're not right about is giving the contract they gave to Eric Armstead. You don't have to. It wasn't an either or situation. You could have let them both go. You could have traded them both. I still say bring back Buckner. They didn't do that. They had their reasons. I don't think they would actually admit to being wrong there, at least until. Because, look, Javon Kinlaw could be really good this year. Who knows? So I don't see it as an admission yet. I think this is more along the lines of what they did with Kittle. It's someone they drafted, someone they developed, and someone they're proud of. And he's not making $20 million a year. He's making 19. It's a lot different. It's a whole $1 million, right?
Well, and the funny thing, Brian, is you just said they didn't want to play defense or pay a defensive tackle $20 million. They're paying Eric Armstead $20 million.
I know. That's the funny thing. They are. They really are. Jack, what do you want to say?
Yeah. No, I was going to say what's funny about that whole thing with Buckner is the number came out as 4 years, $84 million, which everybody says is $21 million. But remember, it was very similar to the Warner deal in that it's an extension. So it was actually a 5-year deal worth $96.3 million, which ends up rounding out to about $19.3 million a year. So they did this whole deal for about $2 million. It's crazy.
Crazy. And they still think that they made the economically correct decision, but they did not. Raymond Martinez says it's not admission, rather a follow-through that when you got rid of your defensive leader in Buckner, you replaced his leadership with Warner. Yeah, they're not in a position where they can let Warner go now. Warner is the heart and soul, the brains. He's the defense. Good call. Isaiah says Willis is the greatest 49ers linebacker of all time, no matter what Fred Warner does, because Willis can get sacks, is a ball hawk, and has great speed. Willis is also better than Fred Warner will be. Yes, I think so. I think kind of people forget how great Patrick Willis was. Yeah. Before Jim Harbaugh retired, he called him the Willie Mays of linebackers, and I think that's pretty much the most accurate description of Patrick Willis I've ever heard. Human Race Win says, if Ebukam is the real deal, Niners will have the best linebacker room. He's a DN now. He's kind of like the D Ford guy, but I think he is the real deal. I'm curious to see what he does.
They should hope he's the real deal.
They should hope he's the real deal.
Because of our next question, right?
Yes. Yeah. Buy or sell Fred Warner saying D Ford looks quote unquote great, Jose.
I'll buy that. He thinks he looks great. I'll sell that. I think he looked great. I don't think the question is never if he looks great. No one ever questions performance this year because even in training camp last year, not as good as you.
Thanks.
Not as good as you. But I would say even last year, I remember our first 2 weeks in training camp, Ford looked okay. I was telling you, I was like, dude, Ford looks pretty speedy against Trent Williams. And Williams was holding his own. And then out of nowhere, the back injury and such. I mean, it's never a question of can he perform. It's a question of can he stay freaking healthy? You know, how healthy this guy's made of glass. I don't care how good he looks, because as soon as you think he's hitting his stride, where's D Ford? The guy pulled a Houdini on us out of nowhere with his injuries. So we just don't know about this guy. He's the most unreliable player on the team, easily, and he's the most wasteful money more than anyone, just Jimmy Garoppolo or anyone. I think Ben or Sanel last time we talked about it's by far. And that's why they got Ebukam. And that's why that comment just a minute ago, if he's the real deal, he doesn't have to be the real deal. He just needs to be solid. If he's solid, that's fantastic, because he's most likely going to be called upon more than everyone thinks. And right now, I don't care. D Ford, over, if you're telling me over under 8.5 games he's healthy for, I'm going to say under. I have no faith in this guy being healthy. Production-wise, if you told me he's going more, cool, he's going to be solid. But that health, man, that's great. Does he look healthy? Let's worry about that, because Kyle Shanahan and Lynch keep saying he's going to be ready for training camp, but that all means nothing because you never know when he's going to get injured.
Yeah, I really agree with Jose on this one, in that I sell the fact that, I buy the fact that he looks great. I'm sure he does. He probably looks really good running around. But the reason that you sell is because this guy, he has a back injury that we don't know what he's going to do, what he's going to be. All he's got to do is go out there and twist one time the wrong way, get hit one time, the wrong way, and he's gone, and we don't see him again. So, yeah, that's the way I feel on this one.
Yeah. And I'm right there with the two of you. I'm sure based on what Fred Warner sees from his two own eyes of D Ford working out against air and just running with no contact, I'm sure he does look great. He's an athletic freak. But when it comes down to it and he needs to be on the field and he has to make it through training camp, I'm selling that I think that D Ford can do all of that. Like Jose touched on, he's just way too inconsistent with his or he's almost consistent with the way he's able to not stay on the field, I should say. So yeah. He's consistent in the wrong way, Yeah. But yeah, if you can even just get half a season from him and he can just provide some pressure on third downs periodically throughout the season, that's a huge win. The way that I see it, there's two extreme wild cards on this team, one on each side of the ball. You have Jalen Hurd on offense, and then you have D Ford on defense. If you get any productivity out of D Ford at all this upcoming season, that's a huge win, even though you can bring up the points about his contract. But anything from D Ford is a huge bonus, because like everybody else, we're not really expecting anything from him. How could you, based on what we've seen over the course of the last 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to buy that he looks great. I'm sure. I mean, he's in great shape. Jimmy Garoppolo looked great sitting on the bench last year. He's a really handsome guy, but
yeah, he was in the press box taking notes.
That's fair. Hey,
like a journalism that you are, Clark Kent.
Of course. I mean, he looked like a classic journalist up there. I mean, probably had better seats than Grant did.
He did. He absolutely did.
The one thing I'll say, and I'm glad Nick brought this up at the end, D Ford's contract is I mean, it's hilarious to kind of look at now. That's the only way I can say it, because this year he's a $9 million cap hit. Next year he's a $12 million cap hit. Then the year after, when he's not on the team, they're still paying him money just so that he could restructure his current deal. So if the 49ers get anything from D Ford, it's kind of like, it's what Nick was saying. It's like Jalen Hurd. It's just gravy at this point. So, yeah, do I buy he's looking great? Sure. But until we see anything, I'm just not going to believe it.
Yeah, he always looks great until there's contact, and then he breaks. Let me give you the history of D Ford, because we only know the last couple of years, but this has been his history since he got in the league. All right. So he went to Auburn. He came to Kansas City, 2014. All right. He played 16 games and played 122 snaps. Okay. That's 12%. That's a standard year for D Ford. 2015, he was 23 back then. 2015, he plays in 14 games, starts 5, plays 479 snaps, 44%. That's a huge year for D Ford. That's the third best year he's ever had in terms of playing time. Then in 2016, ups it again. 14 starts, 799 snaps, 72%. Oh my God, throw him a freaking parade. 2017, though, 6 games, 316 snaps, back to being classic D Ford. 2018, he has his big contract year, 1,022 snaps, 87%. I don't know how he did it. the Niners fell for it. And since then, 226 snaps in 19 and 46 snaps last year. It's what he does. He doesn't play football and stay healthy. I'm sorry. He just doesn't. And the Chiefs knew it. The Niners should have known it. I don't expect him to suddenly be durable. It's never who he was. He wasn't durable at 23.
Yeah. The 49ers really got bamboozled back-to-back years. Jimmy Garoppolo, D Ford. I mean, ugh.
They get bamboozled or they didn't research enough, because there were some training camps I remember that D Ford wasn't even participating in because of precautions.
True.
Yeah, maybe they got bamboozled with Jimmy. I don't know as much.
I like the word bamboozled. I think we should say it 8 more times if we can.
Bamboozled.
Swan Song says, if Jimmy G gets a season-ending injury in 2021, D Ford's contract will look like small potatoes in comparison. Yeah, man, Jimmy Garoppolo is this close to being the next D Ford, but on a way bigger scale. And it's like the Niners. He's the difference between the Niners and the Rams that the Niners can get away from Garoppolo's contract easier than the Rams could with Goff, unless Garoppolo gets hurt again. So they're that close to being kind of in the Rams situation. Jeremy says, can we keep that same energy with every position? Everyone looks good running around or throwing. Yeah, there you go. I feel that. All right, moving on. Will the locker room be split between Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance? Open-ended question. What do you think? Who's first? Ben?
I think I am. Yeah. I'm going to say for this one that I don't think they will be split between the locker room. And I think there's a lot of potential there for something like this. Oh, wow. Oh, looks like I'm taking over, everyone.
New
this is now my channel, everyone. Everyone else, get out of here. Oh, there he is. Sorry.
We thought we kicked you off. Boo.
Sorry.
Yeah, I thought I took over, Grant. Come on.
I'm trying to click in too many things.
Grant bamboozled us just now.
Bamboozled.
7 more to go.
No. So, Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. Yeah, I think like I said, there could be the potential of the locker room getting split, like we saw with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick. But the reason I don't think they will be split is because I think, and listen, we don't know all the inner workings of the coaching staff, but from everything we've seen so far, I think they're setting up Trey Lance to win the right way. They're not going out and saying, like the Bears have already said with Andy Dalton, that, oh, he's our starter no matter what. There's no situation where Justin Fields starts. If you listen to what the 49ers have been putting out there, the information they've been releasing, what the coaches have been saying, it seems like the job is Jimmy's until Trey proves that he's ready for the job. And because of that whole situation, I don't think the locker room will be split on the two, because I think it's going to be very clear by the time we get to Trey Lance starting that he is the starter, that Jimmy shouldn't be the starter anymore. And I don't think the coaching staff or the players will muddy this up. I think they're going to handle it really well.
Yeah. Ben, you use the key word potential. Of course, there's always potential for there to be a rift or a divide in the locker room. And there's a couple scenarios where I can kind of see. I don't think it's going to happen personally. I don't think there is going to be a rip in the locker room, so to speak. But a couple scenarios, let's say that Trey Lance comes in a couple times each game and just has these explosive plays. Because even if Garoppolo is the starter, I do think there'll be times where Trey Lance enters the game, just like we saw from Colin Kaepernick before he took over. And, if Kyle Shanahan keeps going with Jimmy Garoppolo, even though Lance just looks that much better, he looked better in preseason, I can see there being a sense of frustration, especially within the fan base, not so much within the locker room, but I don't think it's going to get to that point anyway, because Kyle Shanahan has already made it so clear how Jimmy Garoppolo has such a short leash. So I don't really see that happening. And I had one other point that I had that hopefully I could come back to, because it just slipped my mind. So,
I shouldn't have done the bamboozle thing. I'm sorry, it was my bad.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
You can come back in whenever you're ready.
I'll be ready. Yeah. For sure.
All right.
Oh, I have it right now.
He's got it.
Yep. And the other, because it seems like Jimmy Garoppolo has the back of the entire locker room. Everybody speaks so highly of him. So if there is a situation where he kind of gets the short end of the stick and he's playing well and Kyle Shanahan still decides to go with Trey Lance, I think that might be able to cause a rift just because everybody speaks so highly about Jimmy Garoppolo's leadership, how he can take control of the team and in the locker room, although I personally don't really see that in my own observations of him, but it's what every single player says. So I do think if there's any rift that comes about, it's going to be because Jimmy Garoppolo is playing well. Kyle Shanahan went with Trey Lance, and some some players, even though they understand the dynamics of everything with you just investing 3 first-round draft picks to move up for Trey Lance, I know the players understand understand that, but they still have the back of Jimmy Garoppolo. So if there's a scenario where he's done dirty and he's playing at a high level, the team's winning and he still gets pulled, there might be a rift there, but I just still don't see it.
Yeah, the way the 49ers are playing this, though, where they're basically saying he's got to show the ability to go out and take this job, I think that's going to help them, because if they just go in and they make the move and he hasn't quite shown himself yet, then they're going to think that the players are going to think that Garoppolo got bamboozled himself. So, I think as long as he shows the ability to get in there, make the plays, and he's playing at that high level or about that same level as Garoppolo, that they'll understand it. Where the locker room gets split, I think, is if they go ahead and they just kind of run this out with Garoppolo, and they have a really good season this year. I think the split really would be coming up in 2022 if Garoppolo was to be the quarterback throughout the whole season and they have a really good year, and who knows where they end up, if they end up in the Super Bowl or what have you. That makes it for a really tough transition from him to the rookie.
I like what you said, Ben, about, it's not like the Bears situation in terms of, they're actually bringing him up so that way everyone can really appreciate it and like, hey, this guy actually worked for it. We saw him like get close or beat out Jimmy or whatever it is, the verdict. And a lot of them, I just listened to Kyle Juszczyk speak on Ross Tucker's podcast, and he just said, like, they asked him about, what do you think about that? And Juszczyk just like, honestly, if whoever's the quarterback, you just got to trust Kyle. And we all do. We believe in him. And that's a lot of it with the culture they've done, dating all the way back since 2019, even before that, the way they're all just the camaraderie, the way they believe in each other and such. I'd say the only differences between with the Bears situation is Andy Dalton's not an incumbent versus Garoppolo is an incumbent. So which I think makes it even better in terms of competition, because, hey, if this rookie can dethrone the guy who's been here, an approving guy, or just come close, then that's even more respectable. Hats off to him. I kind of really see a very slim chance that there is a split in the locker room, because this is not the same locker room, the same team, the same persona as it was when there was Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick back then. Because, I think Shanahan knows how to do better at controlling the team than Jim Harbaugh did, at least in that sense. I think maybe the only slim chance I could see is if Garoppolo is just like straight looking like porous performance consecutively, and he's like a majority or sole reason why they're losing games. But even then, I don't think they'd be split. I think they'd just be frustrated they lost, and then, hey, cool, Trey Lance is here. But other than that, maybe that'd be the best thing that Jack said, like that the best part would be, the splitting next year if they see, hey, Jimmy did good, now Trey. So, but other than that, very, very slim in my perspective.
I think the answer to this question depends on how they handle it. I think there definitely could be a split depending on what they do. And if they handle it correctly, there won't be. I mean, I think while the team and the players like Jimmy Garoppolo, they understand it's going to be Trey's team soon. They just want him to earn it and to prove it. If he's better than Jimmy, they'll all want Trey to be the quarterback. That's how it works. But if they elevate Trey and they feel he hasn't earned it, there could be a split in the locker room. If they humiliate Jimmy Garoppolo by making him be the backup after he's been a good teammate to them, there could be a split in the locker room. How they treat Jimmy Garoppolo will be very important. You can't take him for granted because he's done a lot of good things for the franchise. You got to be careful with him and send him off the right way, kind of how they did with Alex Smith and NaVorro Bowman. So, I think they can avoid it, but it's up to them. They're going to see. We're going to have to see how they handle this. It's going to be kind of delicate.
That's why I don't think they cut Garoppolo at any point, to be honest.
If they do, they can be like, we just want him to be able to go where he wants to go. I don't know what they'll have to frame it like. We're trying to do right by Jimmy G because he's done right by us.
Yeah, that's gonna be a very precise.
Never complain. Right there, sure. Never ask for a trade publicly. They need to do right by him, and I think there's a lot of people in the locker room waiting to see how they handle him, because if kick him to the curb, they kick anyone to the curb.
Yeah.
Because no one has had big of it. Yeah.
I was just going to say, they talk about the family atmosphere all the time. This is a great situation to prove that, This is that kind of atmosphere.
Right. It's like you're getting the divorce, but you don't have to like embarrass the woman on the way out. And it's like, it's already implied. Anyway, it's a terrible analogy. Human Race Win says Denver will get bamboozled. There's the word of the day, trading for Jimmy G.
6 or 5 more.
Bamboozled.
I think I'm going to start a podcast called Bamboozled with
Bamboozled. All right, next topic. Which 49ers player needs an impressive training camp the most? Jose.
I'm gonna go. There's plenty of people to pick here, because in terms of, are they gonna make the roster? Are they gonna make a role? Are they gonna make a starter? I'm going bold because I just made that article today, and the bold choice is Trey Lance to have an impressive training camp. Because in terms of the lens of being a week 1 starter, because obviously if he looks average or bad, he's not going to be a week 1 starter. And I think there's no better time for him to make a case to be a starter at any point in the season than from now until preseason, or even part of preseason if you want to throw that in there, because he's not going to see, or I guess I don't think he's going to see as much first team reps on a week-to-week basis throughout the season, because there's only so many reps to begin with. And even if they do implement him, how much is he going to get? Like a quarter? If that, I mean, I know they want us. I know it's whatever Trey Lance looks ready, but there's no better opportunity for him to look prime time in than now. Okay, is he looking the part with the technique? He's looking fluid. He's looking on the money. Does he have a firm grasp of the offense? And then from there, if they believe he's ready on that standpoint, all right, cool. Now we got to make that leap to see how he's going to be week 1 when he first gets that hit, when he adjusts to the game speed, when he sees coverages, can he decipher it or not, make the right calls? I mean, I think there's no better time for him to just in a week 1 starting standpoint for him. That's on the hinge for him to grasp. He needs to win out training camp, because I don't think it doesn't really matter what Jimmy Garoppolo does. It's all on him and what Trey Lance does himself.
Yeah, for me, this comes down to Aaron Banks. I think he needs to have a really impressive, training camp, because he's not guaranteed a job, very similar to Trey Lance. He doesn't have that job wrapped up. He's got to go out there. I think he's still going to have to show that he's better than Daniel Brunskill to get that job. And the 49ers really need him to win the position, because he's a very good pass protector. At least he was when he was at Notre Dame. And if he can do that for their offense, it's really going to help out whoever the quarterback is, because there's times when you watch him on film in college and guys just give up on him after a while. So they really need him to show out here in training camp and prove that he's the guy going into the season.
I saw Jeremy Price dropped in the comments the player that I'm going to go with. So I talked about the 2 wild cards, D Ford being the one on defense. Jalen Hurd is my one on offense. And of course, you want all the rookies to be able to ball out and show that they're worthy of their draft status early on. But looking at Jalen Hurd, his leash is getting shorter and shorter. And I'm not just talking about with the 49ers. I'm talking about his NFL career as a whole. You look at someone like Trent Taylor, who barely caught on with the Bengals extremely late this offseason. And Trent Taylor has some stuff on his resume. I believe he had a 40-catch year his first year in the league. We haven't seen anything from Jalen Hurd yet. And it's extremely unfortunate that he has had to go through 2 big injuries in back-to-back seasons. You never want to have to see a player work hard to get back to where they were and then have to go through that same process all over again after they're close to recovery. So Jalen Hurd is definitely the player that I think needs to show out this training camp, this preseason. And again, if you get anything from him, it's a bonus. But right now it's more, we're talking about more than just him making or not making the team. Does the NFL going to continue to be in his career path?
For me, I think the player who needs to impress the most in training camp is Juwan Jennings, because I think if you look at the wide receiver 3 position right now, there's a lot of opportunity available. Nick just talked about Jalen Hurd, but Jalen Hurd hasn't been on the field, and he hasn't proven that he can last and stay in the NFL. So I think it's a mix of opportunity. And then you look at some of the other players who are vying for that position who are healthy, like Richie James Jr., he's not necessarily in Kyle Shanahan's favor, it seems. So I think for Juwan Jennings, if he goes out and proves his worth during this training camp, during this preseason, I think he could really find himself in not exactly that Kendrick Bourne role, but the 49ers need a slot receiver, and they need someone who can do damage in the red zone. And I think Juwan Jennings can do both of those things. So yeah, the opportunity's there, and he's just got to make it happen now.
Did you guys read my article? That was 4 out of the 5 players I put on here already today. So, and Grant's going to have the outfield one, which I'm looking forward to.
Who is that?
I don't know. It's going to be outfield. If I had an idea, I wouldn't say.
Okay.
Ooh, Mitch Wishnowsky.
Yeah, Mitch Wishnowsky.
Robbie Gould.
Tabor Pepper.
Shut the.
How about Mike McGlinchey? How about Mike McGlinchey? Yeah, man, he's got to be good the whole way through, man. If he has a bad training camp, he's gonna have a bad year. He can't flip the switch. He needs to be consistent. He needs to do well all off season. And to his credit, he was there the entirety of the OTAs, just like Fred Warner was. This is a guy who was made a captain last year. Didn't deserve it. Now he's trying to like get his career back up from rock bottom, and he's making the right strides. So he needs to keep doing that in training camp. Mike McGlinchey. And I think I'm expecting him to do it. I feel like he's doing everything and saying everything right this year. I don't know what happened last year, but the thing that bothered me about McGlinchey last year was not necessarily like how he was playing. People have down years, especially young people. It was the way he would talk afterward. Mm-hmm. He'd have a bad game and then go to a press conference and talk about everyone else and talk about the direction of the team. It's like, whoa, buddy. I know that they made you a captain, but you don't need to talk like this. And it actually, it annoyed me. That's why I started kind of like almost bullying him. I was like, dude, you need to stop. You need to stop. Just talk about yourself, focus on yourself. And I think he is now. He's doing everything right.
Yeah, but to piggyback off of what you were talking about, Grant, with the way that he kind of presented himself after down games, that Eagles game on Sunday Night Football comes to mind where he was the one that was responsible for letting the guy come through. I mean, it wasn't his fault that Nick Mullins threw that pass that was intercepted, but then looking on that final drive when CJ Beathard is having this heartwarming comeback bid and the team is in actual position to complete a Hail Mary, he got beat on back-to-back plays. And CJ Beathard got hit as he threw the ball. And I remember in the press conference, it was him and Trent Williams. They both said that they thought they had good games. And it was like they both struggled in that game specifically. And that's when the accountability thing really started to come about.
It's like we lost, but hey, I had a good game. I'm cool.
Yeah. And it's also like he talks like he's Fred Warner. Like he could talk about the defense and the overall direction of the team. And it's like, nah, man, just talk about why you missed that block. I know he was the captain, but it bothers me when a guy who isn't playing well is talking like he is. Just keep it to the minimum until you're a Pro Bowler, man, pretty much. But anyway, I think he's doing everything right this year. I'm trying to be positive, and I think he does need an impressive training camp. I think he's going to have an impressive training camp. All right, last topic. Which player are you most looking forward to seeing in training camp / preseason, and why? Ben.
Ooh. Gosh, I don't want to. This is too easy, but I'm gonna say it anyways. I think it's Trey Lance. Come on, I mean, I'm really interested in a couple things with Trey Lance though specifically. I want to see in the preseason when Kyle does give him the reins and they allow him to run his own drives, run the offense. I want to see what type of offense Kyle's going to be implementing with Trey Lance specifically. How much run is going to be involved in that? How much play action is going to be involved in that? And how different is it going to look from Jimmy Garoppolo? I think specifically the running offense will look very different, but I don't think the passing offense will really look that much different. In fact, I think we'll see Trey Lance get a lot of those Jimmy gimmies and he'll be checking down a lot more. So yeah, I'm interested in Trey Lance specifically, but I want to see how they implement him into this offense and what kind of vision Kyle Shanahan has with Trey Lance, because during the offseason, we heard John Lynch talking about it. You know, they were on the plane after Justin Fields' workout, and what was Kyle doing? Working on plays for Trey Lance. So I want to see how Kyle's going to unleash Trey Lance, and I hope we certainly get to see it.
Yeah, that's the layup right there. Trey Lance is also who I'm most excited to see this preseason. I mean, how could you not be? You traded 2 future first-round draft picks in addition to this year's first-round draft pick. He's the 3rd overall selection. You've seen all the warm-up videos. He's out there on the field seemingly every single day. So is Trey Lance going to meet the hype early on and just blow everybody out of the water with what he's able to do, his athleticism, the way his ball placement, the zip he has on the ball? I am so eager to see all of that, but I'll elaborate on my answer a little bit just because I know how could you, like I said, this is the easy answer. I'm also interested to see the cornerbacks behind the guys on the outside, behind Verrett, behind Mosley, Diamador Lenore and Ambry Thomas. Those are 2 guys I'm looking forward to just gauge their athleticism and if they're able to make plays. And the 49ers got fined for that Lenore video that went viral. So I'm excited to see if that can continue to translate, because I think that's the positional group where the team's most vulnerable. If Verrett or if Mosley goes down, you got to have some dogs out there on the outside to make sure the defense doesn't skip a beat.
Uh-oh.
What's going on?
Hey, you there? Yeah, we hear you.
Welcome back.
What's up, man?
I think Lance is obviously has to be one of the top choices, and then Nick took my second choice there, which was Ambry Thomas. Really, I wanted to watch him. But beyond that, if you take those 2 out, I'm looking forward to watching the play of Banks again. I know I mentioned him earlier, but I want to watch him go one-on-one with Eric Armstead, and I want to see him take on the pass rushers from the 49ers, and I want to see how Juwan Kinlaw works against him, because I think he can dominate Juwan Kinlaw possibly. So I'd like to. Those are some matchups that I'd really like to be able to see play out during the preseason, and we'll see that in training camp because we won't be able to see those guys on the field against each other. But in the preseason, that's where I'm going to keep my eye on, because I'm really excited to that one. And then I'll let Jose take the next one because I have another one that I'd go with, but that you guys have a couple before we go there.
Jack's like, I don't want to pull a Nick and steal all the names because I was going to do Embry Thomas too. So, how about this? It's not going to be Trey Lance for me because I want to see what he does regular season. I don't care what he does now because we're not going to know how he is until regular season. But I get the excitement. How about a wild card? How about I'll say Maurice Hurst Jr. because I want to see where he's going to be in terms of because given how many reps and what unit he's with, that's going to reveal to me and to all of us where he is on the pecking order. To me, I'm very hyped up about this guy. I remember years ago being at Raiders training camp, he sauced up Gabe Jackson so much. It was wild, and Gabe Jackson's a pretty solid offensive guard. So seeing him, that he could go up against Aaron Banks. That'd be a sweet one to watch. Go up against Alex Mack, go up against Laken Tomlinson and whatnot. That'd be just something that, because they do need some more solidified depth back there, because they definitely need rotations. Obviously, healthy season was out of the realm of possibility last year for them. So I'm just excited to see how they can do some of the newcomers in terms of free agents, how they're going to fit into the mold, how they view them. And if the 49ers can get more out of these players from that these players can get out of for their previous regimes.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to go with, I got two names. One, Trey Sermon. Have we said him yet? Trey Sermon?
No.
Look, in training camp, you don't really get an appreciation for running backs because there's no tackling. You can't tell. But preseason, I'm really excited to watch Trey Sermon play. He's going to get a lot of carries. You're going to be able to tell if he's good or not. And I'm curious to see if he's better than my all-time favorite running back, Joe Williams, who still never really got a fair shot. So I'm eager to watch that. But no, seriously, I want to watch Josh Rosen. I can't freaking wait. I've been waiting so long to see him play. I've seen him throw 2 passes, and it was the best 2 passes I've ever seen. So training camp, preseason, I'm hoping he gets some reps. He may not. Who knows? With a quarterback competition between Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, how many reps are they going to have left over in a 90-minute practice? And then in a preseason that's just gotten shortened by 25%. There's only 3 games now. When is Josh Rosen going to get his target? I mean, his playing time. So I really hope he doesn't get blackballed the way he seems to be getting blackballed from the league. I'm pulling for Josh. Can't wait.
You're biased. I'm a monitored bias.
I'm biased in a lot of ways, but that's just the way it goes.
Grant, did you buy stock options on Josh Rosen or something?
If I could, I would.
Yeah. Okay.
Those are penny stocks.
Going on a Robinhood right now looking for Josh Rosen.
Well, training camp starts in 5 days. First practice is on Wednesday, which means that the first padded practice should be next Friday. The way it works is 4 practices in a row. That's a lot. Then a day off, then 3 practices, then a day off, then 3 practices, then a day off, then another 3. It's real. It's real in the field. It's hard. I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait. It's coming around the corner. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks everyone for participating. And I'm going to be back on Twitch in about a half an hour if you guys want to keep talking Niners. See you guys.